Hey guys, how's it going? This is Mike from M&R Automotive. Today we have a Toyota Land Cruiser. We've installed one or two 30-inch Pro Series light bars. So first thing we have to do in order to install the light bar is remove the front end. I'm going to go ahead and start that by removing the top cover. So you got to press down on them in order for them to release and pop up. All I got to do is grab a screwdriver, press down on it, and then take them out. So now we're going to remove these three 10mm bolts. So next thing we have to remove this fender flare. I'm going to try to get away without removing the whole thing. I'm just going to remove this clip so that way we can pop open the bumper and the fender. So there's a 10mm bolt here. Alright, so I took out this 10mm screw, and now there's a couple of push pins that I want to take out as well, and that'll free up the bumper. So I'm going to pop this one up. I'm going to pop this one up. So there's also supposed to be one on the bottom on this vehicle. It didn't have it, but if yours does, you're probably gonna have to remove this as well. So now when we peel back this fender flare, there's a couple of clips on the inside. I see there's one red one here. So I'm gonna go ahead and slide my trim removal tool, and I'm gonna pop that open, and this comes out. And I think there's one more that I saw here, which is gray, and we're gonna pop this one open as well. I think this should give us everything we need in order to free up the bumper. Cool, let's do the same thing on the passenger side. Alright, so we're going to take this screw out. Let's take out this push pin here. We're going to take out one above here. And once again, this one didn't have the clip, but if yours does, you probably want to remove it as well. Alright, now I'm going to peel back this fender flare. There's supposed to be two clips here. There's one with a red. Let's see it. Okay, got that one. And then there's one more here. Okay, so we peeled this off, expose us a couple of extra bolts. So now I'm going to take out this screw here, and then I'm going to go across this plastic trim and take out all the screws until I get to the corner on the driver's side. There's a push pin here. I'm going to start taking off all these bolts on the bottom. There's a couple of push pins in here as well that we're removing. Alright, it's all freeing up. Push pin. There's a couple of bolts that we're going to take off as well. I do recommend take notes, maybe take a picture of what bolt goes if you're not familiar with how to put it back together, so that way you're not guessing what bolt is going where. So now this brings us all the way around. There's a push pin here, and there's one push pin and one screw, and that should free everything up. Now that you got all the screws and clips all around the grill, let's see if we can pop this off. You can kind of like pull on it and see if you can unclip everything. There we go. Alright, so we got everything here. Now we can hop on the other side. Just grab it by the bottom, by the sides. You can kind of tug on it to unclip the rest. There it is. So as you remove the grill, there's a harness here which attaches all the fog lights and the sensors. So you want to reach in here. There's a gray lever right there. Take this one out too to remove some of the slack. Now there's a clip on the bottom. If you want to just press on it, you should be able to move this up and the harness comes off. Now that we have the grill off, we're going to install the Pro Series light bar. You do get a set of M&R brackets, and you are capable of installing either one or two light bars on the mount. So I'm going to show you how to install one, and then we're going to add on a second. So these are the brackets that we're going to be installing. You do get a driver's side and a passenger. Note that the side where the light bars go on, they're on the outside of the brackets. So we're going to install it using factory bolts like this. So the bolts that we're going to be using to mount the M&R brackets are going to be these right here. 1, 2. And we're going to use a 17mm socket in order to remove them. We're going to remove this factory 17mm bolt. We're going to slide it through the M&R mount, and we're going to rethread it back into the original spot.
So I'm not going to tighten it all the way, I'm just going to finger tighten it. I like to tighten this bolt last after I get the light bar and tighten these side bolts. So let's do the same thing on the passenger side. I'm going to remove that bolt, slide it through the eyelid of the M&R bracket, and reinstall it. So now that you have these brackets finger tightened, now we're going to install either 1 or 2 light bars onto the M&R brackets. I'm going to go ahead and thread the light bar in between the 2 eyelids. We're going to use supplied hardware. And there's 2 bolts and washers on each side with the Pro Series light bars. So before we do the final tie downs of these bolts, I do want to show you that you could raise and lower the light bar per your liking before you tighten these and make them permanent. So now tightening the factory bolts, once we have everything centered. Awesome. So, and I'm going to also route the wire, because the battery connections are going to be on the passenger side. I do have the wire of the light bar on the passenger side, and I'm going to run it through underneath the headlight and into the engine bay. I'm going to run it behind through this plastic. And there's an opening on the side of the headlight that you can feed this wire into the engine bay. So now that we have the wire in the engine bay, now we have to provide power to our light bar. Because the Land Cruiser is not equipped with factory auxiliary switches, we're going to use a wireless wiring harness to provide it power. The beauty behind the wireless wiring harness is the fact that you don't have to run switches into the engine bay. You just connect it to the battery, connect your light bars to it, and you're pretty much done. Let me show you how to assemble it and connect it to the vehicle. So we're just going to take off the top from the control panel, and then I am going to show you where everything goes. So there's 4 Phillips screws, 2 on each side. So once we loosen the 4 Phillips screws, we can take off the cover, and I want to go over what's inside. So in the fuse box, everything is nicely insulated. It has epoxy for all the circuits. You do get all the fuses with different amperage ratings. You have 230s, 220s, 210s, and 25s. There's a sticker here where it says plus. This is where we're going to connect it to the battery. So there's going to be a positive lead going here, and this is going to be the ground. So it's as simple as that. Connect 2 cables that go to the battery and the chassis, and then you just connect all your accessories to it. So let's go back in the engine bay, and I'm going to show you how to install this. So once we take off the cover to the main fuse box, we also have to take off a secondary cover here. There's 2 latches on this cover. There's one in the front and one in the back here. And the way to remove it, there's a tab that you have to pry going towards the back of the vehicle. So I'm going to stick my screwdriver here, pry this tab. Then the next pin, it's right behind. Okay, so now I'm going to pry this tab going backwards as well. I'm going to pull up on this cover. And now, since it released, we can take this cover off. So this exposes us with a 12 volt constant power. So now I'm going to go ahead and connect the main power wire. And one thing I want to do before I do that, I want to disengage this fuse. So that way, when we're connecting it, there is no power on that end of the wire. I'm going to take the cover off, and I'm going to press this reset button. So when this thing kicks out from being in line, now if this end is connected, there is no power going through the rest because it's disconnected here. I'm going to put this aside, and what I want to do, I want to slide this on this bolt. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and not completely remove this nut, but I'm just going to loosen it just enough so that way I can slide the terminal underneath it. And then I'm going to retighten it. So now that we have the positive wire connected to the positive terminal of the battery, I'm going to go ahead and slide this cover. You're not going to be able to lock the cover all the way because of the mold. It's only good for 1 wire. And then because we added another one, you could either make a cutout here to accommodate the new wire we added, or you could just not close it all the way. And let me show you how I'm going to have it. Alright, I'm going to have it like this, where it just won't click all the way down, but it's going to come really close. And then we can put the cover back on. Awesome. So now we have a 12 volt constant power source that we can connect to our wireless module. Now that we have the power wire connected to the positive lead on the battery, we can go ahead and slide the main power wire to the module. You can slide it under, and then we're going to connect it to the terminal that has a plus on it. So I'm going to slide it like this. I'm going to loosen this terminal. Okay. I'm going to slide the access wire back out of the module. Alright, so now that we've installed the positive onto the positive terminal of the module, we're going to do the same thing with the ground. So with the ground is going to be the black cable. I'm going to feed it through here. And this is the negative terminal. And I'm going to tighten the screw. Okay, so on the module we now have a positive that's connected to the battery, and we have a ground cable. We have to ground it on the chassis of the vehicle. You could use any bolt that touches the frame. There's one that touches the frame through the windshield washer fluid. I want to use this one, but don't ground it on the plastic part. Make sure to go between the bolt and the washer. So I'm just going to loosen it a little bit, slide the terminal, and tighten it back up. There it is. I'm going to grab this terminal, and I'm going to slide it in between the bolt and the washer. Alright, so I'm going to slide the terminal for the ground between the washer and the bolt, and I'm going to retighten it. Alright, awesome. So now we have this module that has power and is grounded. We can connect our light bar wires to it. So now it's time to connect the light bar to the wireless module. So the light bar has 3 wires. There's a black wire, which is the ground. There's a red wire, which is the main function of the light, which is powerful white light. And then there is the Amber DRL, which is white. So we're going to provide 2 power sources and ground 1. Alright, so I'm going to slide this underneath, because once we put the cover on, you don't want to pinch this wire. So there's an opening on the bottom of the module, so that way you can slide a wire. And I'm going to loosen these terminals. So I'm going to put the main function of the light, that's going to be on switch number 1. And I'm going to put the Amber DRL, for example, on switch number 2. So switch number 1, the positive, that's going to be the red wire. The ground, that's going to be the black wire. So we're left with the white cable, which is the DRL. So I'm going to put it on the positive of circuit number 2. Okay, so next thing I want to do, I want to pair the remote to the module. And the way you do it, when you hit the switch to engage electricity into the module, you have to hit switch number 5 times. So that's going to be switch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the one on the bottom right. So I'm going to give it power, and within 60 seconds, you got to tap this 5 times. And then you're going to look for the LED. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This LED flashing means that it's paired. So now we can go ahead and test the lights, how we wired it. So we placed the Amber DRL on switch number 2, and switch number 1 is designated for powerful white light. So if you want to install 2, please follow along. We're going to add a second 30-inch Pro Series light bar, and we're going to connect it to the same module. So that way you can control both of them with this controller. Alright, so now I'm going to install a second, and I'm going to install a yellow output one, just to kind of give you guys a variation of the different products that we have. Same thing as before, I'm going to go ahead and stack this one on top. Once again, just want to remind you, you can move the light bar up and down whenever you're tightening it. So if you want to have a gap between the lower bar and the top bar, you can space them out, or you can just do it like this. So I'm going to create some space in between the light bars, and I'm going to tighten it on the highest level. I'm going to feed the light bar wire in the opening right behind the headlight, and then we're just going to extend it right next to the headlight behind this plastic trim piece. And there's also another opening here to get it into the engine bay. Super easy. So now that we have the second light bar wire inside, you can connect it to the wireless control panel the same way we did for the first, but I'm going to actually switch things up a little bit and show you a new technique just for variation. We're going to connect the DRL for both light bars on one power source. So as you can see here, the first light bar, we connected the positive on switch number 1, we grounded on switch number 1, and switch number 2 was our DRL. Alright, so just like with the first light bar, I'm going to carry this wire in here from the bottom. We're going to use switch number 3, and that's going to be the power to the main white light. So that's the red cable. So the black wire is going to be the negative, which is the ground for the second light bar. And then the white wire, that's going to be our DRL wire. You can either throw it on switch number 4 if you wanted to, or any other switches, but I want to show you that you can actually fuse both of the DRL wires together to come on with one button. So I'm going to take out the DRL from the first light bar. So I'm going to fuse both of the DRL wires from the 2 light bars, and I'll connect it to switch number 2. So it's going to provide 12 volts to both of these wires now. Even if you get a hood mount kit and you want to fuse the DRL function of the hood mount kit with this one, as long as the amp rating is good, and in this case it's 30 amps, which is a lot. DRL is a very low power consuming accessory. It's probably about a 1 amp each. So you could probably do all your DRLs together and even put on a 5 amp fuse without any problems. So let's go ahead and test it. So we put the DRL function of the light bars on switch number 2. I do want to mention that the DRL is slightly different in color because the lenses are different. This is a clear lens. This is like more of a yellow amberish lens. So this comes out slightly darker than this one. But it still matches really good and complements each other well. Switch number 1 is our powerful white light. Switch number 3, that's our yellow output light. And you can run them together at the same time as well. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed and learned something in this video. And please join us on another video where we go out on a night output to show you exactly how much light these light bars put out on the road. You guys are going to love the product.